Hello, hopefully everyone can hear me. Welcome, ghouls and goblins. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for Avenir IT's Spooktacular. My name is Paige, and I'm the administrative assistant and marketing assistant here at Avenir IT, Winnipeg's friendliest managed services provider. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the question box at the top left corner, and I will try my best to answer them. There will be a question and answer period after the presentation where you will have the opportunity to ask questions for Mathieu to answer. I will save technical questions for that segment. And as for our prize draw, the winner will be announced after the Q&A, so stay tuned. Now, without further ado, I, the ghostess with the mostest, will pass the mic to Mathieu, Avenir IT's fearless and fearsome leader.
Wow, Paige, that was great. That was awesome. All right, thank you so much, Paige. I'm going to share my screen and hide my face. I think that's enough scaring for now. So give me a quick second here. And perfect. So everybody, thank you so much, everybody, for being here with us today. Of what we hope will be many webinars where we can share some great insights with everybody. We have some clients online today, but we also have some non-clients. So that's great. Welcome. And yeah, so we thought we'd have fun with it today, kind of going with the whole Halloween theme, Spooktacular. What better way to talk about cyber threats than trying to match it up to some scary Halloween stuff. It also happens to be that October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And so we thought it'd be a great idea to kind of mix the two together. Now, Paige did ask me to dress up for this in a costume, although I did test the costume yesterday and they all voted that I don't dress up today. So just me, if that's okay. A little bit about who we are. We've been around since 2008. We are an IT firm dedicated to helping small businesses. So we started, just a team of 2 people in 2008. Now we're a team of about 21 or 22, I think, as of Monday. We support about 100 businesses in Winnipeg and surrounding area. We're as far north as Pinawa and practically as far down as the U.S. border. And we're having a great time. What we're really, really proud of is we've been rated top 3 in Winnipeg now for the last 3 or 4 years. Which is really exciting, and top 50 in Canada for the last 4 years. The top 50 in Canada is probably, where we're most proud. I believe last year it was out of 2,000 IT companies. So to keep on winning that award is just really, really great and huge for us. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of start off a little bit with some history on cybersecurity. So we'll have a whole bunch of scary facts as we go along, but I thought it'd be fun to kind of start way at the beginning as far as when, cyber attacks kind of really, really started. And you might have heard the story about Robert Morris. He claimed it was an accidental cyber attack. And so he was really just trying to figure out how large the internet was. And unfortunately, in that process, he did cause some damage. Now, this was back in 1988, and it was called the Morris Worm. So what he got for the troubles that he caused was he got a $10,000 fine, 3 years probation, and 400 hours of community service, which, it's kind of funny when you think about this as far as how cyber crimes are now. Now, what he's doing currently is that he's become a professor of MIT at the Computer Science and Technology, which is kind of fitting. Now, shortly after that, in 1989, there was a Joseph L. Pop who invented what was called the AIDS Trojan. Essentially, what happened with him is that he created the first ransomware, believe it or not. And so he had created this ransomware, copied 20,000 floppy disks of this ransomware. And when I say floppy, I'm talking about those really soft, 5 1/4 black disks that some of you may remember. And he mailed it out to 20,000 attendees of the World Health Organization, and it was a ransom asking $189 to be sent to the Panama to a Panama PO box. He was later caught, arrested, but was deemed unfit to stand trial for being unwell. I believe he passed away in 97. Next, after that, as far as you know, we're going to jump quite a few years here to 2016, which is when the first bank was hit in the tune of $81 million in Bangladesh. They had managed to compromise the system that allowed banks to transfer large sums of money. And this attack could have been a lot more serious. Turns out that there was a typo made, and they could have actually gone away with over $1 billion and get away with it. So this $81 million was never recovered, which was the largest and I believe the first cyber attack targeted specifically towards banks. And then another little fun fact is that last year in 2020 was a record year for money spent, you know, to have that cybersecurity. So you know, that businesses spent to secure their environments at $123 billion, and that number obviously is expected to keep on growing, you know, year over year. Now, we hear about this all the time. You know, who's at risk? We're all at risk. We hear about, you know, the big businesses under attack, and so I thought it'd be kind of fun to kind of, I don't know, maybe not so much fun, but kind of go over some of the bigger attacks that have happened in the last year, which you may or may not have heard, but I still find them to be kind of interesting. So the first one was the Colonial Pipeline. Essentially, what happened there is the hackers who managed to breach this company was able to breach it through one compromised password, and was able to cause enough damage through a ransom attack where it actually caused the whole east coast of the U.S. to have a shortage of oil, which was an interesting kind of attack. Later on that year, or last year in Florida, a hacker was able to access the water supply of this town in Florida and actually increase a chemical which would have made it toxic for, you know, millions of people. Again, this was a password breach. It was caused because of COVID. All their staff were working from home, having some remote access. They managed to get in. It's just by chance that they got caught because somebody, a worker, was sitting at his computer and saw his mouse moving on his screen. So again, a really scary kind of attack caused by, you know, a user error, caused by a password, and everything else. In 2021, so in this past year, we've been seeing a huge increase on ransomware attacks for larger educational institutions, as well as banks. Banks experience a 520% increase in phishing in just the first 3 months of COVID, between March and June of 2020. So, you know, it's really going in the wrong direction. And now, sure, you know, we're sharing some of the big guys, right? Some of the big businesses under attack. But the reality is, you know, the small businesses, even in our local market, are always, you know, falling victim to this. Now, I have 4 examples I'm going to share with you today. These are 4 examples that were public. We hear about these types of attacks almost daily. We're meeting people all the time that are calling us for help because they've been a victim of this. Now, this doesn't necessarily make news. The business owner sure as heck doesn't want this to make the big news because, you know, this really does hurt the business, right? You're going to lose trust in your clients. Obviously, you might lose a lot of money. There might be the whole idea about, do we have to pay the ransom? You know, were you prepared for this attack, and those types of things. So we really don't want that bad media. Now, Best Sleep Center, and I do apologize. That's the best picture I could find for this company. But Best Sleep Center 2018, they were a victim of a ransomware attack, apparently for just $6,000. And $6,000 is a very, very, very small number compared to what the typical ransomware attacks are nowadays. So I think, you know, Best Sleep Center went to the media with this. I assume all news is good news. And so he shared that. Also in 2020, the Law Society of Manitoba, you know, announced that multiple of their law firms had fallen victim to ransomware attack as well for an enormous ransom. Now, they never shared what that ransom was, if the law firms ended up paying for them, etc. My train of thought is, you know, if the law firms were ready for this, they probably wouldn't have made the announcement. But, you know, this is still nonetheless very, very interesting. Also in 2020, personal information of hundreds of children and families were compromised in a cyber attack of the Southern First Nation network of care. And then finally, again, last year, about almost $500,000 was stolen from the municipality of Westlake Gladstone. Now, this is, again, somebody had access to a password for their bank, was able to get away with this money. So the question again is no longer of if you will be fallen, if your organization, is going to, get hit with a cyber attack, but really a question of when. And I remember doing a cybersecurity, a presentation for the chamber, I want to say maybe 8 or 9 years ago. And the tune was really, hey, we're too small. Nobody cares for our information. And so it's kind of nice to see that people are becoming more prepared. We're getting a lot more calls asking for these types of solutions, but it's really now become a question of when and how prepared you're going to be, when that happens. On this slide here, I'm just showing examples, of some of these really, really large corporations that have fallen victim or have lost data, either based on an incident on their own, an incident of a staff member, or just passwords that have been compromised, by their users. So I want to jump into, how, IT companies help businesses, or how your IT department help you as far as protecting your environment. And so we like to compare the security of your environment to an onion that has, multiple layers. And so really for us, there's 6 layers of protection that we need to think about when we're protecting your environment. The first one is the human layer, right? So it's the people using the computers. Now we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but the majority of the cyber attacks are caused by this human layer. The second layer is the physical layer. So the physical access to computers, the physical access to, the servers and the networking equipment and those types of things. The third one is the endpoint layer. So now we're talking about, your Windows PC or your Mac PC. The fourth layer being the network layer. So, the backbone, what kind of puts everything together in your office. Application layer, now we're talking the operating system, we're talking about Microsoft Office, those types of things. And finally, the data layer, which is, your file shares and your OneDrive and those types of things. So these are all the layers that we need to protect for your organization. But today, the layer that I really, really want to talk about and focus on is the human layer, okay? And more specifically, phishing. So phishing has really become the star of the cybercrime world. Now, if you don't know what phishing means, to try to really come up with a simple explanation, the most common form of phishing will come as an email. So an email that's pretending to be, something else. So for instance, you might get a fake phishing email from fake Amazon, where they're asking you to log in to the Amazon portal. They're asking you for password information. So typically, it's going to try to trick you into believing the email's coming from somebody else or a different organization. And it's going to try to collect some personal information. So financial information, login credentials, personal information, maybe SIN numbers, those types of things. Now, a lot more common now is we're starting to see something called spear phishing. So spear phishing is a lot more targeted. So where phishing is very, very general, you might get an email from Amazon, or you might get a fake email from eBay, or CRA, who knows. Spear phishing will be more along the lines of you might receive an email from, that looks to be coming from either, one of your managers or your boss, maybe somebody else that either because their account got compromised, or they're just faking to be, faking the email to look like it's coming from them. But then, so you're receiving those emails and you're thinking, oh, okay, well, maybe, this is a real person and they're actually looking for this information. So spear phishing is a lot more targeted. So back to phishing and why this is becoming so popular. It really is the most damaging cyber attacks. I mean, they start with phishing. That's really what allows them to gain access to your network, to gain access to some information, and then, go through with the attack. In fact, 65% of the active cyber criminals use phishing as their primary method of attack. And it really doesn't matter. what the size of your business is. There's so much information out there on the internet. It's really easy to target. And oftentimes too, it's sort of like a spam email, right? They're sending it to just thousands and thousands and thousands of email addresses, hoping somebody will fall for this. So let's jump into a few, more facts about phishing. So phishing attacks have actually increased 600% since the start of COVID-19, which is a very, very scary number. 90% of cyber attacks that result in a data breach will start with a phishing email. 78% of IT leaders say that the C-suite is the most likely to be targeted on phishing attacks. Now, when I say most likely, I don't mean all of them, right? So even if you're not C-suite, we still have to be extremely cautious for this. And then finally, the average loss from a successful email compromise is about $130,000. So these are going to be those ransom attacks that are happening through phishing. So if we go back to Best Sleep Center, they paid the $6,000 back in 2018. Now these ransoms are significantly higher. And it's not uncommon now to hear, ransoms that are costing $250,000 or more. So here's some more really, really scary, stats to consider. Again, if we have that mentality of, hey, I'm too small, there's no way I'm going to be a target for this. These numbers is really kind of just taking a general of what's going on around the world. Some of these scary numbers is 60% of employees open emails that they aren't really fully confident in, or that they aren't fully confident are safe. So even if they're not sure, they're still opening them. Scarier is 45% of those people will click those emails that they consider suspicious, just in case that it's important, right? So these are some really scary stats. And honestly, those two alone should be enough to really consider, hey, what can we do, to make sure that our employees and our staff aren't, part of these numbers. Another scary number here is basically half of the workers cited distraction as the main factor or in their failure to spot that phishing attempt. And if anything, I feel that, all the additional stress and exhaustion from COVID is only going to increase this number. So phishing has become so popular in the cyber world, if you will, a cyber criminal, that you can now buy phishing kits on the dark web. So kits that are basically, how-tos to hack large platforms, to phish, the smaller guys, to steal data and those types of things. How to create, the websites to trick people to give you passwords. And so it's really become a business of not only, benefit from the people who fall victim, but being able to sell these packages, to potential cyber criminals. So why is phishing, growing so much? Why has this become such a big problem? I mean, it used to be a big problem pre-COVID, but now post-COVID, it's that much bigger. And the simple answer is there's so many more emails going on, right? Since COVID, employees have seen an increase of 72% more emails because we're working from home, because we now have a decentralized type of environment where communication is obviously extremely important, and this is happening through emails. In fact, in 2020, on average, 306 billion emails are sent every single day. So if you consider those numbers and you sprinkle in some phishing emails, you can really see how it's unfortunately easy for these attacks to work. Now, typically in a corporate environment, there are going to be 3 departments that are most targeted. Now, if you're one of these departments, obviously be extremely, extremely careful. But even if you're not, obviously there's still a threat there. But typically the high-level executives are going to be targeted for this, right? They're going to be targeted because they have a lot of information, a lot of sensitive information, number one. But number two, they're really, really busy and they get an insane amount of emails. So it's a lot easier for them to be distracted, try to answer a lot of emails quickly without necessarily, confirming and making sure that they are safe and secure. The next department is the HR, right? Because the HR, again, has a lot of personal information on their employees, SIN numbers and addresses and birth dates and those types of things that can then be used to collect more information or to trick, people to believe that they are who they say they are. and finally the financial team. And again, for obvious reasons, right? For banking information, for bank logins, for credit card numbers, those types of things. Now, even though those are the most three common departments, there are three types of employees that you can really, really look out for within your organization to make sure that they don't become part of that problem. The number one is a speed demon, right? If you have those employees that are high producers, but they're working really fast and they're very, very busy, they're trying to hit a lot of targets, they may not be focusing on, again, is that email that I'm receiving secure? Next one is the negative or the uncaring. And I mean, nobody, maybe, I hope not, has this kind of person with this kind of face in their office. But if somebody is, has just completely lost, I don't want to say lost faith in the organization, but, just really don't care about your well-being anymore. Maybe secretly, hopes to see something happen and they're just unhappy at the business. Obviously, those are huge concerns, especially, if they're not being careful about those emails coming in because they just don't care. And then finally, it's the tired and the overworked employee. And again, COVID, has caused a lot of people to kind of feel this way. The COVID tiredness, if you will, where people are exhausted, in a very repetitive type of a work day. And so again, I mean, these are the types of people that might, make those mistakes. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, hey, you know what? I'm not too concerned about email-based threats because I have a spam filter. The reality is spam filters, are just not enough. And they haven't been enough for a very, very long time. Spam filters will never be able to 100% accurately stop spam, all spam emails and all phishing emails and everything else, because the cyber criminal is always finding new ways to trick your spam filters, to bypass that, right? So you'll need a lot more than just a good spam filter, although you do need that spam filter. So don't think that that's a waste. I mean, definitely you need that, but it's just not enough to really feel safe and confident that you're not going to get some of these emails to kind of, trickle through. So what can you do? And the number one, I feel, most important thing that you need to do really with your staff is education. And again, what is really, positive as far as what we're seeing is that, again, a lot of our clients are asking for this. And so Avenir IT just recently launched a portal called Avenir IT Train and Protect. And basically, these are some of the features that this portal will have. Now, if you're not a client of ours, that's totally fine. But for sure, I mean, this is something that you're going to want to do, with your staff. And by all means, send us an email. We'll be more than happy to kind of guide you in the right direction. But staff education really should include, cybersecurity training, obviously. So, a yearly larger course with a quiz, a test that you can kind of review and make sure that your staff understands some of the threats that are out there, as well as having some micro training, so some weekly reminders. And this doesn't have to be long. We're talking 2 or 3 minutes a week. Maybe it's just an email kind of reminding them, hey, these are the threats that are out there. Make sure you don't do this, don't do that. Be careful when you load up your laptop, at Starbucks, those types of things. Simulated phish testing. And so what that means is that we can send, or your IT provider or your IT team can send these fake phishing emails to your staff. So pretend emails, if you will, of, Canada Post or the CRA and those types of things, where it will report back to you, which staff members are clicking those emails, right? That way there, who maybe needs more hand-holding, who needs more training, who needs, to learn to be more cautious as far as, what emails they're receiving and what it is that they're clicking on. Dark web scanning is also, I believe, a very, very important service and part of that staff education. What dark web scanning does, it'll search the dark web and monitor the dark web for any of your staff's credentials, email information, some financial information, those types of things, and report back to you in real time as soon as it's found on the dark web. Now, this is important because these are ways that cyber attackers are finding those passwords and trying to use those passwords to access your system through backdoors that you may not know are there. And so again, I mean, if we can find that, that's really, really great. And finally, vulnerability assessment. And so what that means is, based on the training, based on the weekly micro training, based on these fake phishing emails, trying to figure out who's clicking on what, if they have, emails that are compromised on the dark web, the vulnerability assessment is basically going to give you a score of each employee and tell you where they score and where they are as far as, what's the risk level, right? What's the risk level that they might be part of that compromise? So we have a platform. It's called Avenir Train and Protect. And basically, it's an online portal where your staff can log in and they can access this training, they can access the dark web scan, and then they can see, what their risk score is, and they can compare it with other staff members on your team. So again, if you are a client of Avenir IT and this is news to you, we are in the process right now to reaching out to all of our clients to get them going on this platform. If you're not a client of Avenir IT and you're interested, by all means, send us an email or give us a call. We'll be more than happy to talk to you about it. But even if you're not, we do have some great online resources on cybersecurity, and it's at https://avnirt.com/cybersecurity-guide, including, I believe it's a 5-minute video on phishing. So there's 4 or 5 little mini lessons there that we've seen non-client users use to really have their staff kind of go through that and understand it. So I mean, that's really what I have for you today. I really hope that I'm sharing some new information, or at least something to kind of help get you guys started as far as training your staff. I'm 26 minutes in, Paige. I think we want to try to keep it to the 30 minutes. So if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah, thank you, Mathieu. We'll go ahead and take some time for questions now. And just a reminder, you can find the Q&A part in the top left-hand corner, and you can just ask those away, and we'll get those answered for you.
Well, I mean, I think it's good that there's no questions.
Must mean you were very thorough.
Well, let's hope so. Let's totally hope so. So yeah. So I mean, with that, thank you so much, everybody, for. Oh wait. Oh, there is a question. There we go.
Soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Ken. I was trying to get out here. All right. So Ken, what virus protection do you recommend? That's a really great question. There are so many options out there, and a lot of them are really great. Now, typically for us in the past, we've always looked for something that's a bit more than an antivirus, right? So the typical antivirus is going to be doing those daily scans, maybe 2 scans a day, in the morning, another one at 12, those types of things. Now, which are great, but the problem is it's going to slow down your computer during those times. Plus, it's always comparing, right? So it's not really necessarily being as proactive. It's comparing as to what the viruses know that they're there currently. The second concern that we have for antivirus is finding something that has a very small footprint, because there's nothing worse than having an antivirus that slows down your computer to complete crawl. So in the past, we've been very happy with Bitdefender's been really good. But lately, what we're doing for our clients is that we're pushing a solution called Sentinel-1. Sentinel-1, I almost don't like to call it an antivirus because it's so much more. And it's a lot more than just an antivirus where it's comparing your files, but it's more, it works. I'm trying to find a simple way of explaining this. It's more behavioral, right? So it's going to compare your behavior on your computer compared to what it was before, and how your system's behaving versus what it was, and compare that with the millions of other users that use Sentinel-1. So it's a brilliant solution, and I strongly recommend it. So Sentinel-1 is that solution.
Thorough seems to be the word of the day. That was very good. Thank you, Mathieu, for the answer. And Ken, if you find that we did not answer your question, you could ask us to elaborate in the question box once again. Anyone else?
Great. Awesome. Well, I mean, hey, again, thank you so much for everybody that attended today. I'm really happy to see some of those names on here that some of our, yeah, it's so great. So thank you so much for joining me. Paige, do you have anything else before we go?
No, I think that's it, aside from announcing the winner of our super wickedly good Halloween prize. I had done a draw while Mathieu was answering the question, and the winner is David Rowe. So I will be sending you an email shortly after the end of the webinar, just so you can kind of get a feel for when we can accommodate you to come pick it up and all that. So I believe that's all that on the giveaway front. Just want to thank you guys again for joining. It was lots of fun.
Right on. Thanks so much, everybody. Congratulations, David.
All right, take care. Congrats,
Bye-bye.
David. Bye.